Okay, sweet. Awesome. Okay. So I think I should still be able to admit people from the waiting room if people pop in, but I want to keep us on track and answer as many questions as I can get to. So I've done a lot of Q&As on this in the past, but it is always a topic that I want to talk to you guys about. And it's, a lot of what we do is all one-on-one together, but I love, this setting where we can, like, I can talk to all of you all at once, and a lot of your questions, other people are going to have questions about it too. So it's summer. There's very little routine if your life is anything like mine, between no school and just summer's just crazy. Um, and travel and all the things. But I am very passionate about there's never a perfect time. Like there is never 12 or 16 weeks in a row that you have nothing going on, that everything is going to go smoothly. I mean, for most people, like the weekends are like a hiccup or can be a hiccup every week. And then after summer, it's going to be back to school. And then all of a sudden, it's going to be October and the holidays are going to be starting. And then it's like, well, I can't start now, or I can't stay on track because of the holidays. So my point is that there's always something. And if we can't find a way to make it work with all the craziness, you're never going to reach your goal or be where you want to be, because that's just how life is. So let's specifically talk about travel. But a lot of these tips, I'm going to kind of touch on eating out, and it applies to weekends and really anywhere that you don't have as much control as you would like over what you're eating. So the way I approach nutrition in general, and what I really, I feel like, especially as females, we have bought into the diet culture for a long time, that things have to be really restrictive. And we've really set ourselves up for the whole like binge restrict pattern. That's what we want to do away with. So I hope that what I'm teaching you is that you have a budget. And for all of you who are in a calorie deficit, which I think is most of you here, like this is the hardest part. And if you can do this part, you are going to feel like you have arrived on some fantastic island when you get to maintenance. And that's where I want all of you to get, because that's where 90% of your life should be lived. And that's where most Americans like never even get there. It's either you're overeating or you're undereating, and it's a constant yo-yo between the two. So just know that you're in the hardest part right now. But what are some ways that we can stay on track and continue making progress even when, we're eating out and traveling and things like that? So specifically for travel, and Tiffany, I'll kind of talk about your all-inclusive resort thing as we go. But if you're not going to an all-inclusive, like I'm going to 30A watercolor, I will go ahead and plan as many meals as I can. I mean, I have 3 young kids, and going out to eat is like an experience that I don't care to pay for. So we will do that, but it will not be every meal. Now, some of you have older kids and maybe you do a lot more eating out, but so on my way into town, I will place a grocery pickup order. Okay. I feel like I save a ton of money even if I'm upcharged groceries and like whatever the Instacart fee is, because I don't step foot in the grocery store. Like there are so many temptations, the BOGOs, and it's like when you get to the beach or wherever you're going on vacation, if you go in the store, like everything all of a sudden sounds good, and you're probably kind of hungry by the time you get there. And like, I just don't think that's setting you up for success. It doesn't set me up for success. So I will pay a little bit extra money, and I probably save money because I stick to my list. I stick to the things I have planned. So I will plan some meals that we're going to have at home. I love Lily Eats and Tells. So if you do not know about Lily Eats and Tells, her recipes are macro friendly, which a lot of my program is based on macros, but I'm always very pro like gut healing, and all the functional stuff. And Lily does the best job of any macro recipe blogger, in my opinion, at not always doing like low fat, like sacrificing the ingredients and things like quality ingredients. And she does a great job of incorporating lots of vegetables that you typically wouldn't like think about including. And herbs. Herbs are fantastic for your gut and just overall health. So herbs are a great addition to your cooking when possible. So anyway, I will pick like two. I don't want to go overboard, but like two Lily Eats and Tells meals that will make a big batch of high protein. Like her chicken salad is fantastic. That's a great thing to have at the beach or wherever you're going. So that is one thing that I do. And then just making sure, I mean, I don't like to track when I'm on vacation. Like in your situation specifically, Tiffany, it's probably going to be hard to track. So don't worry about that. I want the time that you are traveling or a weekend or whatever it is, I want you to use that time to learn to eat intuitively. This is something that 90% of Americans are out of tune with. They have no idea when they're hungry or when you're full. And so I want you to practice eating slowly, recognizing those hunger and fullness cues during the times that you can't track. And I just don't feel like thinking that you're going to track on vacation is especially not at an all-inclusive resort. That's just not going to work. I mean, in my situation, maybe I'll track like one day just to make sure what I have planned is somewhere around the ballpark, but you don't need to get hung up in the tracking. Okay. You're not going to be tracking for the rest of your life. When you're at maintenance, you'll check in with it like once every couple weeks. So I don't want you to rely on the control of tracking. I want you to listen to your body and learn to feel your body. Don't get super caught up in like the, specific numbers. Now, when you're home and things are more routine, I do want you to hit your numbers and, be diligent with that as much as possible. But that's not what we're talking about right now. So the other thing that I'm going to get at the grocery store are high protein staples. So eggs, egg whites, cottage cheese, plain Greek yogurt, all the same things that you have at home most of the time. If you're going to like a condo or a house or whatever, like most of the time you can get those things and have them there. Easy snacks. Don't forget that fruits and vegetables a lot of them are very portable, like baby carrots, apples, cucumbers. Like those are all things that you can eat raw, you can pack and take to the beach. So don't forget about that. I always say like as many one ingredient foods as possible. So nuts, fruits and vegetables, like the Chomps beef sticks. I think a lot of people, when they think of snacks, it's like a lot of packaged stuff that, has, I don't know, I'm not saying that you can't ever have a protein bar or something like that, but don't overcomplicate it. Like, let's make it a little more simple and get as many one ingredient items as you can. And make sure that that is in rotation. So nuts, like I said, seeds. I love the Chomps beef sticks. I love the Bear apple chips. Those are really great and portable, but also like an apple is very portable. Um, Even like some packs of, I know that they make like the individual servings of like the Justin's almond butter and different stuff like that. I'll make sure that I take my protein powder. If you don't have a blender, like don't want to just shake up your shake while you're there, this would be a time that I'm okay with you doing the pre-made Orgain or OWYN protein shakes. And that will be part of what I pick up with my grocery order. They'll be there. And so, sure, there's going to be lots of probably other foods that we're snacking on that I wouldn't typically have that I would consider to be more indulgent. And I don't tell myself I can't have those. But what I do is I have the protein shake or the cottage cheese and a cucumber, carrots, whatever, some sort of fiber. And then I have whatever, other splurgy type snack I want. Okay. So I really want you to get out of the mindset of like, oh, well, I can't have that. I mean, a lot of you are new, so I'll say it again, but I say all the time, telling yourself you can't have a food that you typically crave is like telling a toddler not to touch the breakable lamp. It doesn't matter how many other toys or how much other food is in front of you, you're gonna want the one thing that you feel like you can't touch. You can touch it. There is nothing that you can't have, but I want you to have self-control. So if you are starving, if your blood sugar is crashing, you're going to have zero self-control. Willpower is directly linked to blood sugar. Okay. So let's have the protein. Let's have the fruit or vegetable in the form of a, like some fiber, and then have whatever it is that you're craving or what you really want. I love salt and vinegar chips. I have zero self-control if I sit down with a bag of salt and vinegar chips. I will probably get salt and vinegar chips at the beach next week, but I'm going to have my protein. I'll eat a cucumber, and then I'm going to sit down with a portion of the salt and vinegar chips. I'm going to eat them slowly. I'm going to make sure I'm sitting down. I'm going to make sure that I'm not scrolling mindlessly while I eat them, because then I'll get to the end of it and be like, well, gosh, I didn't even really enjoy that. Let me get more. And then I'm going to go back. Okay. So no screens, sitting down, enjoying whatever it is that you're having. I'm saying this in reference to like a snack, but this could be with any meal. So Tiffany, when you're talking about all inclusive, one of my favorite ways to approach that from a meal standpoint is, let me first, well, okay, I'll go ahead and say that. Eat your protein and your vegetable first, and then eat whatever the carbohydrate is. So let's say you have a piece of chicken and some green beans. Eat that first and then have the piece of bread. A lot of times we do it in total opposite, and we like eat what we're most looking forward to first, like the bread or the mashed potatoes or the mac and cheese or whatever it is. I want you to not do that. I want you to eat the protein first. I want you to eat your vegetable. I want you to eat it all slowly. And then I want you to savor. Like, have you ever, I mean, I have a toddler right now, so it always like sticks out of my mind, but like when I serve him something new, or even something like the first couple of times, he eats it, and like how it's like he's eating it, like savoring it, like eating it for the first time. Like, it sounds a little ridiculous, but like kind of be like that. Like, take everything in. Um, what does it smell like? What's going on around you? What other company is at the table? Like, take in the whole experience. Don't make it all about just like the food that's going to give you this endorphin release. So we have to retrain our brains. This is a lot of the behavior part of things. We have to retrain our brains that that specific food is not what's going to make us feel good. It's the company, it's the ambiance. Yes, the food is good, but it's all of it. And we have to really like retrain our brains, because we're used to, just with everything that's in our food and all that we're, sort of addicted to, we're used to just like, we just want more and more of that food. So I don't know with like the all-inclusive resort if you have, I'm assuming you have like a menu and you choose from it or whatever, but when we think about a balanced plate and like building a plate, remember that I have given all of you a macro like nutrition report with hand measurements. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to look in the document section of your Healthy account, because all of you have it. But this is a serving of protein, okay? So we want to make sure that a lean protein, so fish, chicken, pork, red meat, whatever it is, a cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, like this is the portion of protein, and it's not my palm, it's your palm. A cupped handful of a carbohydrate. So here is my serving of mac and cheese, or a piece of bread, or like half of a potato. The thumb of a fat. So the fats are really where, we've bought into this whole low carb thing for so long that now we're way over on fats. And it's not a bad thing, but it's not like, things are still out of whack. And that's why no one can still lose weight. So your thumb, this would be like oil, which, remember, when you're eating out, you're getting a lot of oils that you're not accounting for. So I wouldn't, like when it comes to like cheese, avocado, sour cream, butter, things like that, I'd really err on the side of even maybe doing less than a thumb size portion of that, because you're getting a lot of it. Like even with things like fish, they're cooking it in a lot of like butter, oil, things like that, that you wouldn't necessarily be doing at home. So, just kind of starting to picture what a balanced plate looks like, eating the protein and the vegetable first, and then approaching the carbohydrate with enjoyment and freedom is really where you're going to find, like I said, a lot of food freedom. Um, okay, I see y'all's questions coming in and I'm not gonna read them yet. I'll read them at the end. So yes, that's kind of how I would approach, the all-inclusive. Okay, so again, with all-inclusive eating out, anything like that, this applies to the weekends too. My favorite hack for eating out, you can get whatever you want from the menu. I don't even care if it's, if you've like studied the menu and tried to find the healthiest option, because sometimes honestly, the healthiest option is actually not. But it's the quantity. So before that meal even comes to your table, I want you to say that you want half of it boxed. Don't even be presented with the full portion. Because what's going to happen is you're going to eat like 2/3 of it and be satisfied. But then it's going to sit there. It doesn't go away right away. And you pick on it a little bit more. And then it's like, well, gosh, I don't want to waste it, but it's not enough to take home. And you do this whole mental battle with yourself about whether you're finishing it. And like, then it's like half of your experience is like, am I eating all of it? Am I not? Anyway, I don't know. Maybe I'm the only crazy person who does that, but don't even put yourself in that position. Ask for half of it boxed. You save tons of money because you have 2 meals out of it. And you don't leave feeling gross and bloated and like you overate. You'll be like, oh my gosh, I really enjoyed that, but I really feel good and I am still making progress. Or share it with somebody. You can also split it, but that's one of like my favorite. I mean, it sounds like really that's simple, but I'm serious. It is a total weight loss hack. Okay, so I should have written some of this down. I'm just used to giving the spiel. Okay, so half your meal boxed, plating, eating slowly, eating to 80% full. And that's something that you have to practice and you have to like think about what that feels like. If we eat till we're full, we've overeaten. So I want you to eat slow enough that your brain can catch up with what's happening with your stomach and say, you know what, I'm satisfied. And that's where you stop. I tell my boys all the time, I think that with everything in life, whether it's alcohol or sweets or food or whatever it is, we have to learn to have self-control. So the boys all the time after dinner will be like, can I have 2 of these or whatever? And I'm like, you're the only one who knows how many of those you can have. I want you to maybe eat one and then let's see if you really think you need to. But we all have to learn. We don't have to clean our plate and we're in charge of how much we're eating and like learning to have that self-control surrounding food. Anyway, that was a little bit of a diversion, but okay, let's see. Tiffany, if something that I mentioned did not answer your question or you don't feel well prepared for that, will you let me know? And then let's just talk real quick before I look at the questions about drink. So I want you drinking tons of water. I want you getting as many steps in as possible. If you can come back from a vacation and have maintained, that's humongous. Because what typically happens is people make progress, they go on vacation, they gain the weight, they gain 5 to 7 pounds. Then they're starting at square one to go back, and do it again. And remember, when you're eating 2,000 to 2,200 calories a day, it is much easier to maintain than when you're in this deficit. Okay. So that's where all of you are heading. So it's not always going to be this difficult, but if you can come out of it and have maintained the progress that you've made going into it, that's really big. I want to make sure that from an expectation standpoint that you go into it with appropriate expectations so that you're not, disappointed whenever you come back. Now, I will say you may fluctuate like 2 to 3 pounds just from the amount of sodium that you're going to get when you eat out and travel and things like that. And there's not a whole lot you can do about that. Just know that like it's probably not best to weigh like the day after you get back. Like I'd wait till you're back in your routine for a couple days and then weigh. Okay, so Kate said, what's the best way to log when someone else cooks and you're not able to put in measurements? Best estimates based on what's on the plate using hand measurements. Yes. If this is something that like, you're here in your normal routine and you're going out to eat or like going to someone's house and you don't know what they're serving, I want to just quickly tell you guys all how to do a placeholder. You can put a placeholder in MyFitnessPal. So what I would do is, because we're all doing our best to pre-log, I don't know if I've told all of you this, but if it gets to like 10 o'clock in the morning and I haven't put anything in for my food log, I don't spend any time putting it in for that day. I go straight to the next day, put what my plan is, as much as I know, and go from there. I don't think it's fun to enter food in reverse throughout the day and like play food Tetris, and you're probably not going to get your numbers to add up correctly, like ever, if you're doing it on the fly. So, like, let's say that you know you're going to your friend's house on tomorrow night, Friday night, for a barbecue. I would go into MyFitnessPal tonight, go to my log for tomorrow. The first thing I would put in, if you don't know what they're serving, is a placeholder for dinner. So the way you do that, I don't know if you guys are on your computers or your phones, but you might be able to click over to MyFitnessPal. I wish my background wasn't blurred. Okay, I can't really do that right now. Okay, so I don't know if y'all, yeah, it's probably gonna blur it. Okay. So like for dinner, do you see there's three little ellipses across from add food for dinner? And there's a button that says quick add. You can click quick add. And if you have premium, you can go ahead and put in grams of fat, carbs, protein. But if you don't, you can just at least put calories. So I would put like a 600 calorie placeholder. So you can put 600 calories, and then I would go ahead and y'all can write this down if you want to. I'm going to say it just because it's going to be in the recording, but in general, like for protein, I'd put 30 grams, carbs, I'd put 50, fat, I'd put 30, and that's going to take you right around 600 calories. Like it's going to adjust it all if you put all that in. But that is a way that you can put a placeholder there. So I would add that for dinner. That's already there. And then I would plan my breakfast and lunch around it to make that add up. Okay. So I would probably put my protein shake with cottage cheese in for breakfast, you know, all the stuff that I typically put in my shake. Lunch may need to be something like tuna, lots of protein, very little fat. You know, and add whatever snacks or like whatever sounds good around it, but at least you've got dinner planned and like it's there and accounted for. Does that help?
Sorry, I was trying to type and say that was perfect. Perfect
Okay,
answer. Thank
okay,
you.
okay. Um, and then Morgan said, what do you typically cook with in regards to oil, butter? So I usually will use a spritz of olive oil. Like I like um, this is like the super crunchy part in me from a functional standpoint, where like some of the aerosols aren't, you know, awesome. But they make those like spritzers that you put olive oil in, and then you can control a little bit more how much, because we typically have a really heavy hand when we're pouring olive oil and things like that. I'm a sucker for grilled cheese or like a ham and cheese quesadilla. And if I'm doing that, then I do butter. Um, if you're doing butter, I do recommend ghee. It's clarified butter. It's just, it's really good for one of the short chain fatty acids called butyrate, and from your gut standpoint. But like the boys, I'll use butter, olive oil, avocado oil. So if I'm heating it, I would recommend avocado oil. It has a higher smoke point. If it's something that you're just like drizzling on a salad, I would do olive oil. Let's see, Tiffany said, I've been drinking the pre-made Orgain shakes. When you do your own, 1 or 2 scoops of protein powder. I would do whatever the serving on the package says. They're all different. So I think Orgain is 2, but I could be wrong. So double check that. The pre-made ones are okay, but the blended is better. So the pre-made ones do have some gums. So, I mean, I feel like it's worth it to hit your protein goal, because so much in relation to just like hormone balance and weight and all of that in general is related to protein. And so many women are deficient in protein and not getting enough. I think a lot of functional practitioners would be like, oh my gosh, you're drinking a pre-made shake. Anyway, I'm very like, let's be practical here. Okay. We're all busy. If you have to grab an Orgain pre-made shake, that's fine. But if you are at home and you can blend your own, then do that as much as you can and use the pre-made ones for just like when you're in a pinch. So I like, you can do 1 or 2 scoops. Really, like I would look at the bottle, but I would also see, are you short on protein that day? Because if so, you could add an extra scoop and or add some cottage cheese. So I do ice, water, a handful of frozen spinach, and I just get like a bag of organic spinach and put it in the freezer. And then I do a couple spoonfuls of cottage cheese. Again, the exact amount would depend on how much protein I was lacking for the day. And like I use cottage cheese to kind of bridge the protein gap. And then the protein powder, I love chocolate and I love putting the PB2 peanut butter powder in it. So the PB2 peanut butter powder has less fat because it's not like the oils of the nuts, and it has quite a bit of protein. So I love adding that. I'm a sucker for chocolate peanut butter. So that's how I make my shake. So yeah, anyway, I think that I like more than answered your question there. Okay, Kate, sorry, probably a question. When you do the placeholder, do you try to go back and log No, I don't go back and log exactly. I would just, make sure that when you're actually consuming that meal, that you are mindful and being intentional with when you're hungry and when you're full. A lot of times with women, let me just say from a hunger standpoint, like we think we need another coffee. We're irritable with the kids. Those are all hunger signs. And I work with a lot of women who come in and they're not eating enough. Like a lot of people just we've bought into this low calorie diet stuff for so long. We think that if we're on a diet, we just need to be miserable. But just, hunger is not always like stomach growling. It can be anxious, it can be irritable. It can be just like low energy and that you think you need more coffee. But really it's hunger. So just it takes time to really pick up on like, okay, what are for me, it's anxiety. Like I'll start to get, I don't want to say like weak feeling, but I'll start to feel like I can't concentrate as well, and like little things are making me more overwhelmed than usual. And as soon as I eat, it goes away. So just the longer we do this and the more we work through it together, the more you'll kind of pick up on what your hunger and fullness cues are. And then, obviously the more you learn and the more you practice it. I mean, this all sounds like really basic stuff, but it's things that we're so out of touch with. It's like we have to go back to the basics and practice it again and relearn it. Trying to make sure I said I was going to answer some random cortisol questions. I don't know if y'all, do you ever pre-make? Okay, so yeah, I do not recommend that. The protein powder will separate from the milk or the water or whatever, and it's disgusting. It also like breaks down the protein, and so the nutritional value of it. But yeah, sometimes I'll like make my shake on the way out the door if I know I'm going to be out for the whole morning, and I kind of like sip on it or drink it throughout the morning. But it's not like you can like make it the night before and store it in the fridge. It turns to grossness. So yeah. Anyway, I had said that I would answer some random cortisol questions that people had asked. I don't know. I feel like that's a whole separate, if anyone has any questions right now, feel free to ask, but I feel like that's a whole separate topic. It's a hot topic right now. It's a lot of, I posted about it on my stories today, but someone in particular was asking about the whole cortisol, like moon face, and is that a thing? And And I'll kind of briefly go over it with you guys, but cortisone is a corticosteroid. Cortisone, I think, gets a really bad rap, but we need cortisol. Cortisol has a lot of, it's very a positive thing in your body. It reduces inflammation, it regulates blood sugar. But when we have too much or too little, things get really haywire. So remember that it's a corticosteroid. So you know how, like, if you take prednisone, or maybe you've kind of heard of prednisone, and when you take it, you eat more, you get puffy. So it's the same thing with that would be like the exact same situation as cortisol being elevated. So cortisol, when it's at its normal state, regulates appetite. Like I said, regulates your blood sugar, controls a lot of the sleep wake circadian rhythm cycles. That's why when we see it be high or then low, if it's been high for too long, we have random bouts of crashing throughout the day. And then a lot of times when you actually do lay down to go to sleep, you're like wired and can't stop scrolling, and that whole thing. We often see you get puffy, and specifically in your face. But cortisol is one of the hormones released by the adrenal glands, but so are a lot of other hormones. And one of them is aldosterone, which regulates our fluid balance. So when we see cortisol go up and be out of whack, we often also see other adrenal hormones like aldosterone be out of whack too. And so you'll get this kind of puffy feature, tight rings, what they call like the moon face, bloating, specific abdominal belly fat. And just overall, like from a joint perspective, can be kind of swollen, and just a puffy feature is really the best way I can describe it. So that is a thing, but does social media blow that out of proportion? Absolutely. So, you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. Does everyone who has some puffiness in their face and then lose weight was all of that from cortisol? No. But we do know that fat tissue is its own endocrine system of its own. So if you have excess fat tissue, you are a lot of times automatically increasing your cortisol just because of that adipose tissue. So when you lose weight and then the cortisol levels balance better, you lose some of the puffiness too. So some of it is like sheer weight loss, and some of it is, the whole cortisol, aldosterone, fluid balance kind of stuff. But anyway, that could absolutely be its own Q&A. But that was just a question that I got asked that I thought was a good point, because if you scroll through social media, it's like, it's the whole moon phase cortisol. And a lot of it is to promote whatever this viral cortisol drink is, which I'm like, seriously, to think that there's one drink that's going to make everyone's cortisol levels better, like regardless of what's going on with you, is a little bit crazy in my opinion, but such is social media. I purchased Spindrift. Any other suggestions for caffeine, energy besides coffee and tea? Does the poppy, so does it not have caffeine, I guess? So I do a pre-workout. I'm still I'm a pre-workout girl. So like I do that in the morning before, or like whatever time of day I'm working out. I drink decaf coffee because I have cut back on caffeine. And when we're talking about cortisol, like dumping caffeine in, especially on an empty stomach, is like pouring fuel on a fire. So anyway, I will do like a half a scoop of the pre-workout, and then I drink decaf coffee. But the Spindrift, yeah, you're right. The Spindrift does not have caffeine. Tiffany, I can get with you and tell you the pre-workout that I like that is clean and like doesn't do the like tingly jittery stuff, but honestly, like I don't know, you'll have to let me know about them. I wonder if I can pull, well, let me just look on my phone. Let me try to look the Poppy up real quick and see if it has caffeine. Or if any of you know, you can let me know. I'm fine. Like tea would be really good if you could start drinking it unsweet or like half and half. Um, it says 2 out of the 9 flavors. Hold on. And let me just say, like, I have not thoroughly looked at Poppy. I definitely would not be consuming it for like, they say it had like apple cider vinegar and has like gut healing kind of things. I definitely would not look at it as that because I think that's a little bit much, but it has a lot less sugar. So when if we're using it to replace soda, I think it's great. If you're using it just because you think it's making you healthier, I don't think that's helpful. But it just said that 2 out of the 9 flavors have caffeine, and then the other one is Olipop. Only 2 out of the 9 flavors of Poppy soda contain caffeine. The 2 that contain caffeine are Classic Cola and Doc Pop. So that sounds like Dr. Pepper and like cola. And it's low, it's 32 milligrams per serving. So that's good. I mean, that's not high. So yeah, it seems like those 2 do. So you can do that. So I'm still on I use the Beachbody Energize pre-workout. I haven't done a lot of research on other pre-workouts, but I've never used anything else and I love the taste of it and it doesn't like make me jittery or tingly or anything like that. So I use a half a scoop of that to be like my caffeine for the day. And it really works and like powers me through. And then the coffee that I drink is just decaf because I love coffee. But the decaf is good. I still make my latte with it. Okay. I'm gonna, I was gonna try to put a link, but I don't know if I could put a link. But if you guys want a link, I can send you a link to the specific one. But it's just the Beachbody Energize. So my husband and I have been addicted to it for a long time. But feel free, like if there's one that you're looking at and you want me to look at it, I'm happy to look at it. All right, friends. Well, I enjoyed this discussion. I hope it was helpful. Still have 200 calories today, 25 grams of protein. Do you have any carbs or fat, Kate? I mean, you could do a shake.
Hold on, sorry, I'm looking.
That's okay.
Is it okay if I already did a shake this morning? Is that weird to do it twice?
No, I mean, I don't want to always rely on that, but you also could do some cottage cheese and berries or something like, or yogurt.
Okay. I hit my
Or
carbs.
just-
I have 6 grams of fat left.
Or you could just do more of the pork that you're making,
Okay. It was
like have
very
a larger
delicious.
serving.
Okay.
If you, so
Perfect,
someone
thank you.
asked this week and it was a good question. It might have been Tiffany. How close do you need to come in your numbers? Remember, there's like no set of just like magic numbers is going to work for you specifically. Okay. So there's a lot of variables that I take into account when I give you your goals. But if you come within 10 grams of protein and carbs and within 5 grams of fat, we want the fat to be a little closer because there's 9 calories per gram in fat. So they're more calorie dense. So if you can come within 10 grams of protein, and carbs, either over or under, and 5 grams of fat, like that's really solid. And as long as, I mean, like if you go over a couple days and then you're under a couple days, like it all evens out. So it's not like you need to spend an inordinate amount of stress and time trying to figure out how to get the number to be exactly right. Like the stress of that is probably negating, like it doesn't even, you might as well just be a little off. So it does not have to be rocket science.
Awesome. Thank you.
Morgan, carb options. So make sure you look at the carb page in your nutrition report because it will list sweet potatoes, quinoa, rice, fruit, bread if you want it. I try to like beans. I always try to like lean in the way of fiber-filled carbs, which are going to be more of like the quinoa, beans, fruit, that kind of stuff. Those are all great carb options, but there should be a whole section on that, like in the nutrition report in Healthy. Just so that like for easy reference, since I just rattled that off. Yeah. Yeah, so there's lots of resources that will like open up to you in the program, and I have a slide like I can't remember exactly where it is, but you can look for it. It's like, if you need this, then eat this. Like if you need only protein, eat this. If you need protein and fat, eat this. So it's like it says like EHN full packet or something like that. And it's a slide in there that kind of tells you like whichever macros you're short on, what foods are going to fit those macros, if that makes sense. If you have trouble finding that, let me know and maybe I'll like put it as a pinned post in the Facebook group. But all of you should have access to it in Healthy. All right. Any other questions? Does everyone feel good about the weekend and upcoming travel and overall trajectory? Awesome. All right, friends. Well, if you guys ever have any suggestions for topics, I value that because I stress over what I'm going to talk about. So save up all your questions. We'll do the next one. And like, I've been doing like every 2 weeks or so. I mean, obviously ask me, like, that's why we do it one-on-one, but I also want to have things to discuss at these Q&As. So thank you all for being here. And I hope you guys oh, I know one more thing that I was going to say is that there has been a glitch with Trainer Food the last 2 days with importing logs. And I have been in touch with them and they are resolving it ASAP. But if you have not had feedback from me on your food log in the last 2 days, that's why. And if you see like a little message on there saying it's disconnecting from your, MyFitnessPal, that's also why. So. Hopefully that will be resolved soon. I will keep you posted, but just FYI, I will be back to it as soon as it's up and running. So, all right, guys, y'all have a great Thursday evening. I hope everyone has a good weekend, safe travels, and I'll see you all in a couple weeks.